Creationist Moments is a creationist website that has a new proof that God is real or that creationism is true, and their evidence is a cow. That's it. That's the end of the point. So they show a cow, and they say, well, look, you see the spots on the cow? Well, the spots on the cow they look exactly like the map of the world. Looks like a map of the world. So therefore, clearly there was a designer. Couldn't have just happened, by accident. It looks too much like a map of the world to be an accident. Therefore, end of conversation, God is real. Now, here's the problem. Is the photo even real? We don't know. It is likely photoshopped. But even if it's not photoshopped, okay, and look, if you look online, there's, I think, dozens of these pictures of cows with a map on them, on their spots, right? And, I mean, the reality is it's likely true that most of them are photoshopped. But even if we're kind and we say, okay, well, every once in a while a cow does exist that has spots that kind of looks like a map of the world, so what? So what? It's like when people find Jesus in toast. Okay, that doesn't prove Jesus is real. If Jesus was real and that's how he chose to communicate with us, he's an asshole. He could just, go to every major city at once throughout the world and say, all right, guys, just to let you know, heads up, I'm real. And this is the proof right here. And then he could prove it by, I don't know, making lightning come out of his ass or something. Whatever. There's a million ways that he could prove it to let everybody know. But it's always like, no, I'm going to do this weird roundabout thing that maybe not / doesn't at all prove that I'm real. So the toast is silly. Because how many times have we seen, Jesus was on toast, but then when it comes to Muslim people, they could see Muhammad on a piece of toast. So what, are they both real at the same time? That's not possible. Is there one God or is there two gods and they're both true? And then what happens with, people from other religions who see Joseph Smith, for example, on a piece of toast? I mean, there's a million and one ways they can't all be true. What is an Amazonian shamanic ritual religion just as true as the Greek gods and just as true as Jesus? No, it's supposedly one true God. All the religions can't be true at the same time. That doesn't make sense. That would be a massive contradiction. There can't be multiple different one true gods, right? So it doesn't prove anything. I mean, of all the ways God could prove he's real, I put fucking a map on a cow. Do you guys get the connection? That means I'm real. Not at all! But let me read you what their argument is. They say, quote, obviously, this cow's spots were put there by a designer. Obviously. Yeah, you're right. It is a designer. It's a 14-year-old in his basement using Photoshop. That would be a designer. They say, but our question for evolutionists is this. If you agree that the cow spots are designed, why won't you agree that the actual cow, which is so much more complex than the arrangement of its spots, was designed itself as well? Oh, I see. So they're making the old watchmaker argument. It goes like this. Well, if you see a watch laying on a beach and there's nothing else around, you don't assume that the watch just came to be through natural selection or through some sort of evolutionary process. No, the watch was created. It was designed by a designer. If there's a watch, there's got to be a watchmaker. And the argument goes, well, it's the same about everything in the world. Everything looks so designed. I mean, you and me are so designed. Therefore, there's got to be a God. There's a designer for us because we're designed. Their argument continues, quote, evolutionists and atheists will agree that the pattern of the cow's spots was designed, but they will not agree that the cow itself was designed. That's because they are committed to their faith, yes, faith, built on the premise that there is no designer. Though they can see the complexities of nature all around them, they say that everything was the result of mindless natural processes. And that's why Darwinists have a cow, when they hear a Bible-believing Christian say that things which appear to be designed actually are designed. If they weren't so biased against God, they'd know that the cow spots reveal the incredibly huge blind spot in our own minds. Now, I can't even tell you how many times on this show we've gone over the rebuttal to this silly argument. And as I've pointed out before, it's such a bad argument, it is its own fallacy. It is its own fallacy. It's called the fallacy of passing the buck. So what does that mean? Well, look, even if we accept their argument is true, and let's do that, right? Hey, man, if something's designed, it's got to have a designer. Is what it is, man, right? Okay. So by your own reason and by your own logic, well, if there's a being that was so complex and so powerful and so nuanced that has created us, and it has to be by definition, because if they created us, they have to be so much more complex and intricate and bigger than us, right? Well, then who designed the designer? Because again, by your own logic, if something appears designed, it's got to have a designer. Okay, well, God is much more complex than we are because he fucking created us, right? So who designed God? Was there a super God that created us? And then was there a super God that created a super God that created a God that created us? And was there a super God that... No, but see, you know what happens when you bring this up? They stop sniping rationally. They don't want to play the game anymore. Then they go, nope, with God, you draw a clean line and you say, he created everything because he just can. He can. But wait, why is that less irrational than what you say the evolutionists do, right? Because people who believe in evolution, they say, look, we don't know how we got here, but we know evolution is true, so then you just need to worry about abiogenesis, which means the first being existing, right? And we don't know how it happened. There's many ideas out there. Scientists have been working on it. It's possible that all you needed was a lightning bolt that struck primordial soup, and you get the first tiny, single-celled whatever organism, and then eventually you start the ball rolling, and then eventually it goes through evolution and natural selection. You have all these different species that have been created, right? But why is it more rational to say God doesn't have a designer, right? Because God is more intricate than we are. See, the problem is this, man. In an attempt to answer the question, you've actually created a harder question. That's why they call it the fallacy of passing the buck. You think you're answering the question, but you're just creating a harder one, right? So, look, even if we accept your logic, your point is silly and ridiculous. Why can't we just admit we don't know, right? That's what agnostics and atheists just say, look, we don't know that part. We're working on it, but we don't know that part. We're honest. We're intellectually honest. And then the final thing I'll say is, even if they are right, which they're not, but if they're right, that, well, that proves that there's got to be a designer. It just does. The cow's spots and everything, we look so designed, there's got to be a designer. That doesn't mean that the God of the Bible is true. See, that shows that they're not using reason. Because they go from step 1 to step 9,412. We think there's a designer, therefore Jesus and Yahweh. And the Old Testament and the New Testament. But there are thousands of religions that have existed throughout time. How do you know if it's a deistic God, which just means a God who's apathetic, who created us and then was out, right? Or a God from the Greek gods or the Roman gods or Shinto or Buddhism or Hinduism or Scientology or Mormonism or whatever, some new cult. How do you know? How do you know? You don't know. You can't go from, I think there's a creator, to the Bible must be true. You need to prove everything in the Bible is true along with that, and you don't even try to do that. You don't even pretend to do that. You just say, well, we think creation is real, therefore Bible. But you can't do that. That's not rational. That's not logical. You haven't proved anything. So... if you can't tell, I get very heated about these conversations, and I don't know why I'm doing it, because we're dealing with people who they honestly think like children, right? I mean, that's the extent of their thinking. It's, I don't know, we look like design, so it must be designer. Cow has spots. Looks like map.